Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep on a topic you might not expect, DEI, and its impact on adults on the autism spectrum.
DEI.
Yep, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we're not focusing on race this time.
Oh, interesting.
We're looking at how DEI, or the lack of it, can really affect your work life, especially if you're autistic.
Makes sense. Where are we getting this from?
This deep dive is based on a blog post from CheapABA called Adult Autism and DEI. Why? It's more than just race.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the main point?
Well, one thing it highlights is how dismantling DEI programs could actually hurt marginalized groups, including autistic individuals.
That's not something you'd think about right away. I
Right.
mean, most people think DEI is just about race, right?
Exactly. And that's a big misconception the blog post tackles.
So it's about more than just racial minorities.
Way more. It's designed to include all kinds of marginalized groups, neurodivergent people like you and me included.
Gotcha. But if people think it's only about race, then it's easier to say, well, this group doesn't need it.
Right. And that's dangerous because it takes away protections and opportunities for everyone, not just one group.
Makes sense. So how does DEI actually benefit autistic adults, especially at work?
That's a great question. The blog post gives some good examples. Like, think about accommodations in the workplace.
Yeah, like what?
Things like noise-canceling headphones if you're sensitive to sound, or having clear communication rules so everyone's on the same page.
I get it. Those little things can make a big difference for someone on the spectrum.
Totally. It's about creating an environment where everyone can do their best no matter their sensory needs.
You're right. It's not just about the physical space either, right?
You got it. DEI also pushes for training and awareness so coworkers can understand and support their autistic colleagues.
So it's about building empathy and breaking down those stereotypes we all know too well.
Absolutely. And when that happens, it's easier to address discrimination because everyone's more aware and sensitive.
DEI kind of provides a framework for making sure everyone is treated fairly and can speak up for their needs.
Exactly. Now, here's where things get a little worrisome. The blog post mentions those political movements trying to get rid of DEI.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good.
No, it's not. And that could have big consequences for autistic people at work.
Like what kind of consequences?
Well, without DEI, you could be passed over for a promotion just because you're autistic. Or you might face disciplinary action or even lose your job.
Because they don't have to make those accommodations anymore.
Yeah, or they might not even know they need to.
Wow, that's a pretty dark picture. What about socially? Would that change too?
I'd imagine so. Without that DEI training, there'd probably be more misunderstandings and conflicts between coworkers.
Yeah, it could become a really tough place to work if they roll back those DEI programs. And it's not just the workplace, right? This could affect everything.
You're right, it's bigger than that. Dismantling DEI could impact access to resources, education, even healthcare. It's a systemic issue, you know?
It really is. So what does the blog say about this misconception that DEI is just for Black and brown communities? It calls it out as a dangerous idea, often based on, well, prejudice. And it can be harmful to everyone, autistic folks included.
It's like they're trying to pit people against each other, saying supporting one group means taking away from another. But that's not how it works at all.
Exactly. It's a distraction from the real problem, systemic inequality. And that's where the slippery slope argument comes in.
Slippery slope. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so imagine this. If we let them dismantle DEI for one group, it gets easier to do it for others, right? So weaken racial inclusion, and suddenly it's open season on protections for other marginalized groups, like us, people on the spectrum.
A domino effect. One group loses their rights and everyone else is more vulnerable.
Precisely. The fight for inclusion is intersectional. We're all connected. Everyone's rights depend on everyone else's.
That makes a lot of sense. Does the blog offer any solutions to this, though?
It does. One thing it emphasizes is sharing our stories. Like, if you experience discrimination at work, especially if it's related to changes in DEI, speak up.
Because those stories have power, right? They make it real for people.
Absolutely. Make your voice heard. Share your perspective. Advocate for your needs. For too long, decisions about DEI have been made without even asking the people it's supposed to help. Autistic people need to be part of the conversation.
It's not just on autistic people to advocate for themselves, though, right? We all need to support DEI.
100%. The blog challenges everyone to be allies, not just for ourselves, but for all marginalized groups.
Starting with educating ourselves about the challenges autistic people face, both at work and in life generally.
Right. Amplify their voices, share their stories, support organizations fighting for their rights, and most importantly, challenge discrimination whenever you see it. Silence just helps the problem continue.
This deep dive has really shown how interconnected our struggles are. We're stronger together when it comes to inclusion. There was this powerful line in the blog. It said, "True inclusion means ensuring that everyone, regardless of neurotype, has a fair chance to thrive."
I love that. A world where being different isn't seen as bad, but as a good thing. That's the ultimate goal of DEI, right? Everyone belongs, everyone has a chance to reach their full potential.
It is. So as we finish up, here's a final thought for everyone. We've talked about DEI, the threats to it, and how we can all fight for it. But what does true inclusion look like in your life?
That's a good question. Something to think about, not just at work, but everywhere. Think about where you spend your time, the people you're around, how you communicate. Are you seeking out diverse perspectives, challenging your own biases, creating a safe and respectful environment for everyone?
Those are important questions, and we need to keep asking them not just once, but all the time.
DEI is a journey, not a destination. It's never really over.
And it's a journey we need to take together. Take what you've learned today and apply it to your own life. How can you be an ally, an advocate, a force for good?
Because together, we can make DEI more than just a buzzword. We can make it real for everyone.
We'll leave you with that to think about. And until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, keep pushing for a world where everyone belongs. See you in our next deep dive.
It really has been a lot to think about for sure. But yeah, DEI is much bigger than just race, that's for sure.
It's about making a world where everyone, no matter who they are, feels like they matter, like they belong, Especially for people on the spectrum, that sense of belonging is so important.
Absolutely. And that's something we all have a part in,
Right.
creating that.
Exactly. So before we go, just one last thing to consider. We've talked about allyship and advocating for others, but what does that actually look like in your everyday life? How can you make a real difference, for neurodivergent folks?
Maybe it's being more aware of the words you use or taking the time to learn about what it's like to be autistic.
Yeah, or maybe it's about speaking up when you hear those stereotypes or see someone being excluded because they're different.
Even the smallest things can add up, right? It all makes a difference.
And if we all do our part, we can create real change, make a world where everyone can be themselves and thrive.
So until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep pushing for a better world for everyone.
And don't forget, your voice matters. Speak up for yourself and for others. See you in our next deep dive.